Welcome to this week's edition of the Casual Shooters Podcast, your premier podcast for the casual shooter. Now, I'm going to do something a little different this week before I actually introduce the guest and the show. I want to give a shout out to John Royer. You probably know him better as Outdoor Dynamics. Well aware of the fact that I didn't get a media badge for Carry Optics National, so he actually went out of his way to make me a media badge for the North Carolina section. And on the backside, it says medic. So he has media on one side, medic on the other. So shout out to John Royer. I appreciate it. I tip my hat to you, sir. Now, this week's episode features a limited GM with Masterpiece Arms Shooting Team and is trying to accomplish something that I'm aware of only one other person doing, and that is winning all area matches in one division in one shooting season. He's almost there. He only has 3 more to go. So with that, join me in welcoming Joey Sauerland to the show. How you doing, Joey?
Hey, thanks for having me on. Hate to break the podcast with some bad news, but Area 3 was last weekend, and I did come in second place limited division. So the all 8 is out.
I'm not done changing the scores yet, so we're good.
Oh, perfect.
That's okay. You're still doing good. So
thank you. There's more years. There's more years. It's only my second real year competing, so there'll be more opportunities.
And that's one of the things I want to talk to you about, because that's very, very impressive.
Well, thank you. It's Steve Anderson has been my coach since I first started training for USPSA. I went basically directly to him, and he's been basically my only coach throughout the process.
Okay. So is there anything else I got wrong on the intro, or do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
No, that's it right there. Limited division. That's the only division I've ever really competed in. I think maybe I'll branch out one day in the future, but not anytime in the foreseeable future. I'll stick with what I'm doing well in. Masterpiece Arms Shooting Team. That team's been amazing. Guns are really incredible. And they just got really great people there too. You know, it's a group you want to be a part of. That's about all the introduction I have.
Okay, well that works. There seems to be quite a few of you on that team.
We got a good handful, yeah. There's definitely a core group that are very much into competing at the moment, you know, shooting a lot of matches, traveling around a lot. And then some others who aren't quite as active on the team, but you know how it is. Like you said, different lifestyles, varying commitment levels.
Absolutely. All right. So, Joey, what I like to do is start with some icebreaker questions. They're usually the harder questions of the show. So we're going to start there. And the first one is, what's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Well, John Wick, obviously. That's an easy one.
All of them, or a particular one?
I think everybody knows that the first one is a classic. The second is probably the best. Third one's almost as good as the second, and then the fourth one was a different animal, different kind of movie.
It was.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it would. Yeah, I think there wasn't enough storyline and just too much falling downstairs.
Yeah, there was. You know, they it seems to go that way in movie series. You know, the first movie's great, second movie builds on it, and then around the third, fourth, especially the fifth movie, I feel like they always have to one up the previous movie, and so usually that ends up being, you know, just kind of more crazy ideas, more CGI, just more over the top. And it's still a great movie. I'd watch it again. Right now. On my next airplane flight, I'll probably watch it for a 5th time. But yeah, second one's probably the best.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the first one was like, it got everybody's attention, and the second one like sucked you in.
Yeah.
But I agree. I mean, I'm not throwing shade on the fourth movie.
Right.
I just felt it could have been better had they added a little bit more storyline to it, do a little bit more. Now there's talk of he's going to be in a 5. So it'll be
Well,
interesting.
yeah, I knew that 5 had already been written and paid for before 4 was released. Yeah,
I did not know that.
yeah. No,
This is
that's
breaking
the plan.
news.
Yeah.
Okay. But you have insider trading information?
I forget where I heard that. I probably just read it on the internet or heard it somewhere, so it could be complete BS, but
Right. But we're going to accept it as fact, damn it.
perfect. Perfect. That's what I do too.
Now there is one movie series that I think has stayed consistent, very good from beginning until end, and that is Mission Impossible.
No, I've never seen any of those, sadly.
Oh, it's amazing. That series has been going on for 25 years. And every single one of them, they have their own storyline, but they're all very good. I just saw the first half of the last one. It was 3 hours long a month or two ago, but it was the first 2 hours. I was like, man, how long have we sat here? And I clicked on my watch and it was 2 hours in. I was like, holy cow, that went fast. Very, very good series. I can highly recommend it to you if you get bored on one of your flights.
Yeah, I think I've seen them on there too. They're available on Delta.
Okay. All right. I have found that most people don't read much anymore, but your favorite book. Now, that's a good face to make.
Okay, so I'm going to change my answer to the first question because my favorite book is All Quiet on the Western Front.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've seen any of those movies. There was one made in like 1930 something, and I'm sure it was good, production quality and acting for a 1930s movie, but that was a century ago. And then there's one from like 1980, and then there's one that just came out a couple months ago. It's on Netflix. All Quiet on the Western Front. It's a German movie, so it's dubbed over in English. I speak German, so I watched it in both languages several times. But that's my favorite book, All Quiet on the Western Front, and probably actually also one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
The movie strays from the book a little bit, and it makes it. I mean, honestly, if I'm just going to describe it, it just makes it a little bit more movie-esque. It's a little bit more. It seems like they turned it into a movie from a book.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little more. I don't know, a little more kind of like the John Wick, just a little bit more drama, a little more over the top, but it's definitely Saving Private Ryan level of kind of raw and historical war movie. I think better. I think.
Okay. Now, are you saying you think All Quiet on the Western Front German edition is better than Saving Private Ryan?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's very, very strong.
Well, I'll tell you why. I've never served in the military or been in combat. But when I watch Saving Private Ryan, I think, man, that's badass. I want to go do that. Let's go do that. Let's go sign up. Right? When I watch Braveheart, I'm like, give me a sword, give me a kilt. Let's go do it.
Okay.
I'm
Recruiting movies. Okay, I got it.
When I watch All Quiet on the Western Front, I think, man, it's really awful that people let that happen to each other. Really terrible.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I think, knowing the people I know who've been in the armed services and seen combat, I think it's probably the closest movie you can get to a war experience based on how I felt after the fact.
Okay. Well, you heard it first here. Go see All Quiet on the Western Front German edition.
It's on Netflix. You can watch it in English. You can if you click on Netflix, it'll probably automatically be in English. But
well, that's no fun.
I mean,
Ich bin einer Berliner, right?
Yeah, you can watch it both ways. Watch it twice.
All right, cool. If you're into superheroes, who's your favorite superhero? If not, who's your favorite historical figure?
Same answer to both questions. Travis Tomasi.
Oh, interesting. Somebody just said Nils on here, so I like it that you say Travis.
Yeah. Oh, someone else already picked a shooter for that question?
It was Tyler Meisenheimer.
Oh, that's funny.
He said Batman growing up, and I said, you said growing up, you're an adult now. He goes, I still like Batman. He goes, but now Nils is my superhero.
So, yeah, Nils is a king. He's a force to be reckoned with, that's for sure.
All right. So why Travis? What is it about Travis?
Well, I'll tell you what. Obviously, he's a legendary shooter, right? World champion, national
Sure.
champion. I think he's got over 50 area wins in his career. But also, just all around a great guy. You never met a nicer person, a better person.
Favorite gun and caliber, but they don't have to be married together. It could be a 1911 and 9 millimeter, is what I'm
Hmm.
saying.
Well, if I'm being honest, I haven't really shot that many guns. I can probably list on one. I can list on one hand every handgun I've ever shot more than 50 rounds out of.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rifles?
Um, yeah. I mean, I've shot rifles some. When I very first started shooting 3 years ago, and I was just kind of shooting matches here and there. I'd shoot an IDPA match one weekend, and then the next month I'd shoot a 3 gun match. Just kind of getting into it and experiencing the shooting sports. I had just a Ruger AR pistol. I think it was like $550, and I bought it because I didn't own an AR and I needed one for 3 gun. And so that's probably the rifle I have most rounds through. I also own a Ruger Mini 14. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, I mean, both of those guns put together, probably less than 2,000 rounds through them. And then
Okay.
for handguns, I think I owned. I can't remember. Let me walk it backwards. So my favorite handgun, by far the highest quality, highest performing, most aesthetic, most valuable in terms of its quality and performance abilities, but also its its value, is my Masterpiece Arms guns, which I have two that are identical. They're the Travis Tomasi double stack 40. So those are 2011s, 40 caliber 2011s, made by Masterpiece Arms, and those are super nice. Before Masterpiece, I was shooting a CZ Tactical Sport Orange, which is a great gun, is a fine gun. But the 2011 platform is definitely a little bit higher level competition in what it's a little bit higher level platform in what it's capable of. And then before that, I was shooting a Glock 35, and before that, I was shooting a Glock 34, and before that, I was shooting a Polymer 80 Glock 17 that I drilled out myself.
Okay. So
And
you
that's
homemade pistol.
and that's
Okay.
what I started with in USPSA.
All right. Nothing wrong with that. Now you keep bringing up Travis. I'm going to jump ahead for just a moment. Have you taken any classes with Travis?
I have not. I would really like to.
Okay.
I would really like to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Travis. You need to send him an invite.
Yeah. I was just emailing him this morning about some other stuff. We're obviously on the same team, so we're in touch all the time. But yeah, I just haven't gotten around to it.
I mean, there's no time like the present.
Dude, I hear you, brother. I'm with you.
That would be a fun class to take.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
I bet I can. He's really busy. He's got a full schedule, but I bet I can. In my position, being on the team, I could probably pull some
Yeah.
strings, maybe get a private lesson with him.
Yeah. Even if it's just one day somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, what he
I,
doesn't know is that I would still pay full price.
he does now, unless I edit this out.
True.
All right. The fifth question I usually ask is one that is more personal to the guest. Yours is the ladies have been emailing me all week. They want to know when you're going to start your own OnlyFans subscription page like Jay Beal.
uh, are you talking about the one that he has on Instagram where you can
I can't go there. My wife would ask too many questions.
Oh, I gotcha. Well, I mean, that's two different things. See, Jay Beal has subscriptions on Instagram where you can learn from his training, and that sounds like a good idea. That sounds profitable. But the
Yeah, it
OnlyFans,
sure does.
different ball game.
It's still profitable.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? It's a capitalist country. You know what? $20 is $20, they say.
That's right. It doesn't matter. I mean, when it comes into your bank account, it just says $20.
Yeah, that's all it says. It doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
There's no memo with it.
Oh goodness. All right. So Joey, did you grow up hunting, shooting, anything like that?
No, I mean, I had a 22 Henry rifle and maybe some other tube fed 22. And I would like maybe shoot those if we like went camping. We'd take that out and like I don't know, shoot some paper plates or a soda bottle with it or something.
Blink. Yeah.
Never been hunting myself. Although as I get older, I see it much more of the practical thing that it actually is. Whereas not for sport or recreation. That's what USPSA is for. But now I'm out here buying my groceries every week, and I'm trying to buy enough protein. It seems pretty practical with how there's half a dozen deer in my backyard every morning. It just seems pretty simple that I would start hunting so I can just quit buying all the meat at the grocery store.
You just need to learn how to use a rope and lasso those suckers.
Evidently, yeah. I mean, they're right. I mean, I got to like push them out of the way. Got to push them out of the way of my car.
There you go. See, you didn't grow up shooting and hunting, that type of thing. How did you get into shooting then?
Well, so I definitely didn't grow up hunting. Still never been hunting. And it's not that I didn't grow up shooting. Like my dad taught me on like a BB gun or like a pellet rifle when I was little how to shoot. And then kind of just really for the longest time until I started shooting USPSA a couple years ago, it really was just whenever we would go camping, we would take guns out with us and just shoot for fun. And it wasn't until one time more recently, maybe like 4 to 5 years ago, my cousin, my main boy, Michael Norman, who most people who know me know him. We and our buddy Harrison went out in the woods to go camping, and we took some guns with us to go shooting, and we had some clay pigeons. And basically, we were shooting stuff, and we're like, you know what, this is kind of boring. What if we made it a competition? And we ended up, just like kind of just making up some shooting games. We ended up basically running a timer. We didn't own a shot timer at this time. We were using an iPhone with the stopwatch on an iPhone. And basically we'd set up an array of, clay pigeons or something that required, moving somewhere to be able to shoot all of them. And we would time it and see who could shoot them all the fastest. And in retrospect, that's ironic because it was sometime a year after that where Michael said to me, he's like, hey, there's this thing shooting. It's a match you shoot. We should just go and try it out. And we went and tried it out. And obviously, I can't remember if our first match was IDPA or USPSA because I didn't know the difference at the time. So there's deer right outside my window right now. I'm looking at 3 of them.
See, you just need some rope.
Yeah, no, they're looking at me right now.
Go out there and wrestle them.
Yeah. But we went out and shot our first match. Can't remember what it was, and we were like, yes, this is the epitome of what we were trying to accomplish by having fun doing competitive shooting out in the woods at clay pigeons. And that's how we started.
So what were you, was that just with rifle or were you doing that with pistol?
When we were going out camping, shooting?
Well, with the clay pigeons and all of that.
Oh, we probably shot some with a rifle at some point. I mean, we were just, you got to picture 3, can't remember how old we were. I could do the math, but it's too hard. You got to measure 3, early college age guys, and we're just out here thinking like, how can we make shooting these targets more fun? We're out here with guns, we got targets. How do we make it more fun? And so we were just kind of dicking around. I don't think we even owned any shotguns at that time.
Who said hold my beer first?
Yeah. Well, that's my thing. We weren't even drinking at that age.
Now, is this the same Michael Norman that's on the Action Brass shooting team?
Yes. Yeah. Same guy. Yep. High master class, low grandmaster level shooter. Great guy.
Okay.
Great guy.
So how did you actually find the sport again now of USPSA? Who was it that was? Go
I
ahead.
forget how Michael found, but it was Michael. It was Michael
Okay.
who one day was, I think I was at his house and he just said, "Hey, there's a thing." And yeah, I can't even remember what he said, but I mean, basically, he said, "Hey, there's some thing where you go and you shoot stuff, and it's a competition, and it sounds cool, and we should do that." And we did.
Okay. Now, was that with your Polymer 80 build?
I think the first match we ever shot, we showed up both with CZP07s,
Okay.
which we had bought just because. I mean, I think we went to Bud's Gun Shop in Lexington, Kentucky, and looked at handguns, and we were like, which one looks like a legitimate handgun to own, you know? Because I think he had some 22 that belonged to his dad. Obviously, that wasn't going to work, and I don't think I owned any handguns at the time. And so I think we went to the gun store and we're like, which one of these looks like a regular, pretty standard issue handgun, And in retrospect, if I had been the gun store guy, I would have said, well, I mean, if you want to try out competition shooting with a low investment, high quality gun, you should just buy a Glock. But we bought the CZs, and then a couple months after that, we made some polymer 80s, partially because we thought it would be cool, to make your own. And then we moved to Glocks, and then we moved to actual competition CZs. He went to Carry Optics and got a Shadow 2, and I went to Limited and got a Tactical Sport Orange. And he's still shooting the Shadow. I'm shooting Masterpiece
Okay.
Arms now.
What division did you start in? With
Open.
your open.
Well, we
Okay.
showed up. Well, we showed up because we thought, because we didn't know anything about the sport. So we were over here thinking like, all right, you know what? You know what the hardest part of this sport is? It's shooting all alphas really fast. That's the hardest part by far. And it'd be really easy if this gun had no recoil. And so we just bought, we bought slides and barrels for our polymer 80 Glocks that had ported barrels. So we're over here with lowers that we drilled out ourselves and ported slides with ported barrels in them. And, someone else would say like, hey, you can't shoot that. It's going to bump you to open division. And we would say, okay, I don't know what that means. Can I still shoot? Okay, fine. And so, yeah, that's when we started with the polymer 80 Glocks, we were in open. And then once we learned that there were divisions and it mattered what kind of gun you had, then we both went to Glock 34s with optics and both shot Carry Optics. I think I shot Carry Optics for maybe like a month or two. And then Michael stayed in Carry Optics and I switched back to a limited gun.
So what was your first classification?
I'm pretty sure it was B class in open division with a polymer 80 Glock. It was my first classification level.
Were you same in limited when you started there then?
I don't know. I can't really remember because I mean at the beginning there we were really bouncing around between guns, didn't really know what from what,
Right.
and that was basically the whole first year of us shooting, and we were bouncing around between divisions in USPSA, but we were also bouncing back and forth between 3-gun, IDPA, USPSA. And I think I shot one Steel Challenge match in there somewhere as well. But we were shooting, one, maybe 2 matches a month of different stuff for the first year, just messing around. And we didn't know anything.
Now, are you exclusively USPSA now, or do you shoot other stuff still?
Now exclusively USPSA, yeah. Out of loyalty to John Wick, I would like to shoot some 3-gun more, but we just don't make the time for it. If there's a free weekend, we'll fit in more USPSA stuff.
Is there a goal you want to accomplish that would then allow you to shoot other things more? We're like, okay, I accomplished what I was trying to do. Now I'm going to shoot more 3-gun.
Not in the foreseeable future. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll probably keep shooting limited division for the foreseeable future, until I hit some massive accomplishment milestone, or if I somehow get tired of it and need to diversify to stay interested. But that's not on the horizon anywhere.
Okay. what was it, about 2020 then you found the sport?
Yeah, 2020. I remember because it was the week that the shutdown started in March was the week that I first ordered my Dillon XL 750, my first reloading press. And
So you were prepping to stay home.
yeah, I was like, well, I'm going to have all this free time. I might as well learn how to do something cool. So I actually started reloading before I ever shot a match. And then I prided myself on actually, to this day, I've never shot factory ammo at a match, which, I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter that much, but at the start, that was a big deal. In our first year of shooting, I was like, hey, dude, this is really cool. Like, we just found this new shooting sport, and I've only ever used my reloads. Pistol, that is. I didn't reload any rifle or shotgun.
Okay.
But yeah, I bought that reloading press, and I don't know, a month or two into having it, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because March, April, May, June. I think our first match ever was in July. I think it was 4th of July weekend because dudes were wearing like America hats and flags and garlands and stuff at Bluegrass Sportsman League in Kentucky. And so yeah, around March, bought my reloading press. July of 2020, started shooting, and for that year, it was kind of just dipping around. 3-gun match this month, IDPA match the next month.
Now you started in carry optics, so that would be 9 mil. Then you moved to limited, that's 40.
I shot limited minor for a while before I went to major. Yeah, because
Okay.
I had that Glock 34 that I was shooting in carry optics, and I just took the optic off and put a magwell on it and kept shooting it in limited. And then at some point, I decided that I wasn't going to buy a new gun to try and make myself better. I thought, once I feel like my skill level merits the major power factor, then I'll buy the gun. So at some point, I upgraded to a 35, Glock 35.
Okay. So is that when you switched over? I assume that's when you started then loading 40?
Yeah.
Okay. So you loaded 9, now you're loading 40. Is that all you load exclusively now?
That's all I loaded for about the past year. And then recently I quit loading altogether. I don't load ammo anymore. I get all of my ammo from John Royers at Outdoor Dynamics.
Okay.
Yeah,
There we
all
go.
my competition and my practice ammo I get from him.
Okay. All right. Not too shabby.
Yeah, he makes good stuff. Never had a single issue.
So how did you find Masterpiece Arms then?
Last year, nationals. That was my first nationals I'd ever been to, and they had a booth set up, and I met Phil there, and I met Travis there, and yeah, they had a really cool setup where you could go test fire their guns with Outdoor Dynamics ammo in the warm-up bay. And so I went and shot their limited gun, and I liked it a lot. And so I got Phil's information, I got his card, and then I reached out about being on the team, which was ambitious at the time. It was very ambitious because I think I was master class at the time, and yeah, and I'd been shooting USPSA dedicatedly for about a year, and I walked up and I was like, "Hey, can I be on your shooting team?" Which, in retrospect, seems kind of silly. Why would they take me on the team? But what they did was they gave me a small discount on a used gun. Actually, it was the demo gun that they let me shoot there at nationals. They, because it was used, so they sold it to me at a small discount and put me on kind of a prospective shooter list. Hey, you shoot our gun for a little while, and we'll see how it plays out. And it played out.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
Now from the time you became B class in open, how long did it take you to become GM in limited?
Well, that's tough. I might have to look at I don't know if the USPSA page will give me that information, but I wasn't classified in anything probably until, I mean, either the end of 2020 or early 2021.
Okay.
And I've been GM since earlier this summer.
Okay.
So if we just say early 2021, April, early 2023, so 2 years.
Now, did you reach GM based on match performance?
It was a contributor. When I made GM, I think I had an area. I don't know if I still had an area 5 from 2022 in there, but I think I did have an area 2 from 2022 in there,
Okay.
and then some classifiers.
Okay. So a
Yeah,
combination.
yeah.
All right. Now, at what point in here, because you said Steve Anderson has
Mhm.
been your mentor / coach the whole time. At what point did you take a class from him? I'm assuming you did.
That was early on. I think I just saw it in the memories on my phone. When we first went to train with him was maybe around 2 years ago, summer 2 years ago.
So everything seems to really started to happen in 2021.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
kind of settled into a division. You got serious about it. You took a Steve Anderson class.
yeah.
Um,
That's weird.
okay.
Yeah, it's weird. The questions you're asking are making me overlap all these events that I haven't thought about for a while. Because I remember the first time we trained with Steve Anderson, I still had my Glock 34, and I had brought with me a Glock 35 that I had recently purchased, but I
Hmm.
wasn't shooting it. And I remember taking it out and saying, "Yeah, Steve, I've been thinking about switching to the Glock 35 and shooting major." And we kind of talked about it a little bit, but that would make sense. And sometime a little bit later, in probably late summer of 2021, switched to the 35. Started shooting major.
Okay. Uh, Now, have you just taken the one class? What classes have you taken with Steve?
3 total. So we trained with him privately, we being me and Michael. We've trained with him privately at his home range twice.
Okay.
And then we also kind of facilitated the hosting of him at Bluegrass Sportsman League in Kentucky. And we also participated in that class. So two private lessons at his home range and one group class at a range.
Any mental management in there?
Oh, yeah. I've taken mental management twice.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, well worth it. Well worth it. There's yeah, you keep learning. That juice is really worth the squeeze. I'll tell you. Of all the juice, that juice is worth the squeeze. I keep learning from it. Ever since the first time I took it, and then after the second time I took it, I keep learning from it. So recently, it was Area 1, and I don't really have I can't really. I It'd be too much words to go into depth and really explain everything. But basically, when I'm out there shooting a match, especially a big match like a level 3 match, I'm running my mental program, having the right thoughts at the right times, doing things consistently. And towards the end of the first day, I shot a mic on a stage, and you know how that can be, right? For the average person, you shoot a
Mm-hmm.
mic, you're like, ah, dang it, and you get all upset, and sometimes that can throw the rest of your day off, or at least the rest of so the rest of the match, or at least the rest of the day. And then on the next stage, I shot 2 mics on a stage, and this was like a 12-round stage. The furthest target was maybe 8 or 9 yards away. I shot 2
Wow.
mics on that stage, and then I was like, whoa! I was like, I'm messed up, and I had to call Steve, and I thought this is in between days, in between the first and the second day. I called Steve, and I thought that he was going to give me some, new wise sage advice about how to save the match, and maybe there'd be some numbers and hit factor math involved. And he just repeated stuff from the mental management program that I hadn't learned how to apply to a situation yet. Um, but then I did, and shot really great. Shot really great the second day. So there's just so even though I've taken it twice, I'm still learning from it as time goes on at matches in my shooting.
Well, I mean, I've taken it as well, and it's a lot of information to digest.
It's a
So
lot. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing, because I just, do you know who Brian Zins is?
I know the name for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So he was on Top Shot, the show Top Shot,
Mm-hmm.
but he's also a 12-time NRA Bullseye National Champion.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like the GOAT of old school pistol shooting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first person to win 7 national titles, and he finished with 12. So he doubled the next closest guy to him. But it was interesting because towards the end of our conversation, I was asking him about mental management. He goes, I started to teach it and then I just stopped. And he explained that, and I'm leading into some of what Steve is saying here. He said, for me, it's all about just focusing and staying in the process.
Yeah.
And I was like, there it is, summed up. One sentence, 2 sentences. Now, you can go and learn a process, but the whole point is that, I feel like that's one of the biggest things. Steve builds up to it, gives you all the foundation for it, and then gives you the process. Now it's up to you to be able to stay in it. So what I'm hearing is you're still learning your process and staying within those lines of
Yeah.
that process.
Yeah, exactly. And that pretty much is it summed up, you know. Process is one word. Process to me implies a little bit more, like mechanical. Like, what's my process? Well, my process is to, have my mags already loaded and, get a chance to walk the stage in advance, get a subconscious stage plan, do enough mental reps of it, focus on calling my shots. That's the process. But the program is the mental management part. And that's how Steve refers to the mental management program. So the process is what I'm doing outside physically. The program is the computer program, that's making the robot do what it do. The program is the mental program that makes it do.
Yeah, and he's separated the two and called the mental part the process because to him, the grip and the trigger finger was automatic. Like that wasn't even a thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so for him, it was just a matter of doing everything mentally, being properly focused and doing everything right. And he said, if anything interfered with that, he said, you got to abort the shot. Stop, do what you got to do, get refocused. If you're not focused, you're not gonna do it. So that mental management programming focus is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it's big. Big.
So are you finding that it's because this type of shooting is different than his type of shooting? Okay. Um, are you finding on days like area matches and nationals are completely different, if you ask me? One is a sprint and one is a marathon. The area matches being more of a sprint. Are you finding it easy to stay focused and in your mental program for the whole match?
It gets easier and easier. Yeah.
Okay.
I've I've only ever shot one nationals, and I've only ever shot 5, 6, 8 area matches ever. So, I'm still kind of learning, especially when it comes to nationals. I mean, I've shot the lowest number of nationals you can possibly shoot without it being 0. I've shot 1. Um, so I don't really know. I'm starting to get the idea of area matches where it's either 1 or 2 days of shooting.
Yeah, and
It's
and there
definitely
are some that are offering that half day format.
Yeah, it's definitely very different on the second day, but I like it. The first day you're kind of out there and you're not shooting yet, and you're thinking I've got to shoot right. But once by the time you're on the second day, you're like, man, I'm out here shooting already. This is what I do. So I find the second day is much more easygoing.
Okay. And if you looked at, did you follow Carry Optics Nationals at all?
Yeah. Hmm.
And it seemed like almost everybody, very few people didn't have a bad first day. It seemed like most people had a bad first day, and then everybody kind of regrouped and things went from there. That first day does seem to make a difference.
Yeah.
Now, before you mentioned that you had gone to Steve's personal range up in Ohio twice,
Mm-hmm.
and you hosted him once.
Mm-hmm.
What did your training look like leading up to, we'll say, all of 2021 and 2022? What did that training look like? How much dry fire, live fire, that type of thing?
2020 and most of 2021, or at least half of 2021, wasn't really doing much dry fire at all. After training with Steve the first time, I definitely started dry firing. I can't really trying to remember. I've moved a couple times too, so I'm like putting myself in different places.
Okay.
Yeah, I started dry firing pretty consistently in 2021, and then through 2022 into this year, been dry firing at a pretty aggressive volume very consistently.
Okay. Now let's move into this year. You shot nationals last year.
Mm-hmm.
Shooting nationals, did that alter your thought process on training when you finished that match?
Um, no, I just left knowing that I needed to train more to get better.
Anything in particular or just across the board?
No, I mean it was very. I shot well, and I was able to do. Yeah, I mean I was able to shoot very well. I noticed that I made it through an entire nationals, my first nationals ever, and they didn't put up a single target that I couldn't hit with relative ease. You know, the furthest, most difficult target is something I can shoot pretty easily, and so then it was basically, can you do that, consistently and faster than everybody else? And that just takes, you got to make, as Steve Anderson would say, you got to make it normal, right? So you can't just show up to a match and just go faster, right? That doesn't work.
Right.
So yeah, I was like, oh, so it's pretty obvious that I'm just going to have to be able to get these sight pictures on targets and get the gun to the next place it needs to be to get the next sight picture sooner. I'll start dry firing.
Right. Okay. Have you had, I know you haven't taken a class with Travis, but being on the same team and you make it sound like you guys do communicate. Have you ever had the opportunity to pick his brain at all?
Here and there over email, I'll send him a question or two, but not in any real significant way. No, he's uh he's pretty he's pretty booked up and busy. So we've been talking about finding time to do like a range day together, and also like to go work out together, but hasn't happened yet.
How close are you guys in proximity?
Not. I'm in Cincinnati and he's in Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah, that's definitely not close.
I'll fly
Okay.
down there though. I don't care. Or Huntsville? I think he's in Huntsville. That could be wrong. Could be somewhere else. He's in Alabama somewhere for sure.
Okay. So there's a couple states in between you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's definitely not close.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't sound like then that there was anything when you finished nationals last year. There wasn't anything you walked away from going, "Oh boy, I was weak in this area. I need to fix that going forward."
Um, Not particularly. No, I'm trying to recall. And
And that excludes speed because we all know that's an
right,
ongoing process.
right, can always be faster. Yeah. No,
Exactly.
I shot extremely well, and I think what I realized was at my best. Like the times when I shot my best, I was shooting really good. The best parts of the best stages that I shot. And I realized all I need is for all of my shooting to be my best, which just means more consistency, which just means more practice. You know, the more the more draws you do, the more consistent your draw is going to be, right? If you've done 10 draws and you take a sample of 5 draws, they're going to be very different. If you've done 1,000,000 draws and you take a sample of 10 draws, they're probably going to be almost identical. So I just realized that it's just going to take more time and more volume to get consistent enough to make my best shooting my normal shooting.
So do you do a lot of live fire then?
Not much, no. I recently started doing some more because I felt that I've gotten to a point where there's significant, not significant in terms of how much progress, but there's meaningful progress to be made. When I was a year ago, I was just getting a good sight picture on a target quickly was something that I was, working on. And so, managing the recoil wasn't as important as just choosing to get a good sight picture, on the second shot on a target. You can kind of just make that choice, to get a good second sight picture on a target, especially with iron sights, right? That's just kind of a choice you can make at a match. Okay, I'm going to call my shots. I'm going to be able to tell you where these bullets go, not just the first one on each target, but the second one too. And so it wasn't until earlier this season, once I made Grandmaster, I decided that if, it's probably going to be necessary for me to start doing some live fire training on some kind of regular basis to maximize my potential.
Now, have you always been competitive?
Not particularly, no. I did some sports in high school, but I wasn't particularly devoted to them or passionate about them. Just kind of being on the team, kind of doing a high school sport.
Right. So what's different with this?
I don't know. One, it's cool, obviously. It's definitely the coolest, track and field, guys over here doing shot put. And, winning is winning. Winning feels good. You get handed a trophy and you get somebody with authority saying, guess what? You're better than everybody else. That feels great. Doesn't matter what the sport is. But, a guy over here in a tank top throwing a ball, 30 feet, it's like, great. Your mom is here clapping because she's your mom, right? But USPSA is cool, man. I just shot all these targets faster and more accurate than you, while running around and moving with this sweet looking gun. That's cool.
I can only imagine the comments now on YouTube from all the track and field folks.
Yeah. Well,
it's not a ball.
You know how it is. You know how it is.
Yeah, I do. I know.
At least for me, I know there are people who got serious about a sport and got competitive in a sport and took it very seriously at a younger age than I did, and made it part of their lifestyle, right? And grew and learned from having something that they were passionate about working at and a big part of their life, and self-improvement, and got all that out of it. But I never got any of that out of it. I was just on the team, hanging out with my friends.
It was a social thing for you, really.
Yeah, I mean, and I wasn't there for the social aspect, but yeah, I mean, you kind of do it. What am I going to do? Just go home and be by myself every day? No, you do something. You be part of stuff, participate. Right. But no, yeah, USPSA, I like. It's really cool, and I've found myself very desirably challenged by it. Where the next rung of the ladder is always within reach. In track,
so it's very tempting.
Exactly, yeah. So in track and field, this one, when I was in track and field, I ran some, but I also did shot put and discus. And when there's like some 250-pound guy, I'm over here at a $130, 6 foot tall at a $130. I'm like, there's only so much I can do to throw this iron ball. As far as this guy who's almost 300 pounds, there's only so much I can do. There's only so much technique I can put in here. This guy's going to throw it further than me. So, but in USPSA, it's a great balance of, there's obviously always an ongoing debate about athleticism in USPSA. And it requires some, obviously, if you want to be the best in the world, you're probably going to have to be mildly athletic. You can't be out of shape. But it's a very good challenge where at no point am I sitting there thinking, well, getting 10% better than I am now, that's definitely not going to be possible. No, that's always possible. 1% better is always. I can go get. You give me 3 hours of dry fire, I'll go get 1% better right now. I'll go get 1% better in 2 hours. I'll go increase my skills by 1%. I'll go do it. And that's what's really desirable is, track and field, you can't always run more. You've been on the track for 2 hours running, doing sprints. Your body's like, hey, listen, you can't keep doing that. You got to stop. You got to eat food. You got to drink water, and you got to sit down. You got to quit. And I used to be into, before I was into shooting, I was into bodybuilding, and same thing. There's a very much a limit, right? If you're not going to do steroids, then it's basically dependent on how much food you can eat, how much time you can spend lifting weights, and your genetics. And if if you're training hard, man, you really can't train more than 2 hours a day and still be getting this diminishing returns, right? If you work out for an hour, you're probably getting 70. If you work out hard for an hour, you're probably getting 75% of everything you can get. You work out for 2 hours, I think you're at 100%. You work out for 3 hours, I don't think you get anything more than you did out of 2 hours.
Right.
But in USPSA, you can dry fire for another 20 minutes and learn a little bit more. Make some skill a little bit more normal for you.
So
there's always more. And that next 1% is always there.
I feel like agility training is probably the one thing that would help and lower body explosion for the sport, because there is a lot of stopping and starting and changing direction. And if you have that ability, more so than the next guy, if you guys are otherwise equal, then that's your advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And obviously, realistically, it depends on the stage, right? A stand and shoot classifier
doesn't matter.
It's 0%, right? But obviously, we've all been to some match where you really had to run around a lot. Some huge stage and large distances in between positions. Yeah, make a big difference there.
And let's look at Carry Optics Nationals. You had, what was it, stage 19, where you had the 3 diamonds?
Oh, I shot that one at the club match the following weekend that they had that you could shoot the stages at. Yeah. And I messed it up. I messed it up pretty bad, but I moved real fast.
But what I was getting at was some people were like, it would take me too much time to move from the back to all the way up front. So I have to shoot everything from the back to kind of equalize that. But you also make the marksmanship, the accuracy part of it, the precision part, more difficult. Whereas, apparently I wasn't there, but apparently Jay's was like, oh yeah, I can do this in so many seconds. So he ran to the front and engaged the targets, but he knew physically he could do it and shoot the targets faster than some people just standing there and shooting them. So that's where I say, there are times where that physical prowess does play a part, because he minimized the precision part of it by utilizing his physical ability.
Yeah. 100%. And then Steve Anderson always says, when it comes to talking about physical fitness, Steve Anderson always says that being in shape is going to help you be on your feet in the sun all day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, you and I were talking before we went live that you have made your lifestyle now revolves around this. At what point did you make that decision, and what was it that made you go, you know what, this is what I'm doing, this has priority, so that's what I'm doing?
There was the actual changes in my lifestyle, how I spend my weekends and my money and my time and where my mind is throughout the day. That's been a slow, gradual progression towards all being centered around USPSA. But the moment when I decided that I was going to do the work required to go far in USPSA was that first time we were out there training with Steve. He said, there's only one thing you have to do to be a national champion. And I said, oh, what's that? And he said, just have to outwork the current national champion. And I said, oh,
That's it.
I'll do that. I'll do that. I know it's like that 1%, right? Like you're on the track. You can't always run more. You're in the gym. You can't always lift for another hour. It's not going to get you anything. But, if we're talking about dry firing, for USPSA skills, you can always put in a little bit more. And so I said, that's not impossible. That's just a certain number of minutes and hours and repetitions. I'll do that. I'll do it. That sounds good. So that's what I'm on my way towards. That's what I'm working towards.
Okay. Now I assume then that's your goal in USPSA is be limited national champion.
Yes. Just very recently, I kind of learned how the national team is picked for the World Shoot, which I guess the next one will be in 2025. And so apparently I was talking to Scott Brown at Area 3, and according to him, it's very realistic that if I just shoot USPSA Nationals and IPSC Nationals this year and next year, I'll certainly get a spot on the team. He seemed pretty confident that I would definitely get a spot on the team. So those are my two goals. I'd like to be a national champion, and I would like to be on the national team at the World Shoot. That would be really cool.
Okay. So are you doing anything to focus on those in particular, or are you just doing the normal, continue the training and get there eventually?
I'm still too new to be preparing for a specific match. I'm still on just one. Okay. I'm still on just one gradual. I always have stuff to be working on. I'm just constantly working on improving every day. I'm not at a point yet where my training goes up and down. Where I took a month off and now I got to spend 3 weeks training up for this big match. I'm not doing that yet. I'm still pretty new to the sport, and I'm still on just one steady improvement track.
Now, how did you get Steve on your side? Did you tell him Van Halen was your favorite band, or did you buy like 20 pounds of blueberries from Jay Beal?
Steve Anderson, I don't know. Sometimes I think I annoy him. Other times I think he is really excited about me. But no, yeah, I don't know. I think he's said before that I do what he says really well. I follow his instructions wholly. I don't take out the little pieces that I like the sound of at the moment. But I do everything. I do the whole program. I do everything he says. And I mean, really the reason for that is because I don't know anything. I'm new. So he's been, from day one, he's been the guy who I'm like, hey, Steve, like, here's a funny example. I didn't know what prepping the trigger was until I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
I was talking to Jaylee's Williams, and
okay, yeah,
I didn't know what, I think it was her who told me. I could be wrong, but I was talking to her or somebody else, and somebody were talking about prepping the trigger, and I was like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. I've never done that. So you what does that mean? You take your trigger out and clean it and lube it so that like it runs really well and consistently for the match and like feels the same on every trigger pull. And they're like, no, no, you idiot. They're like, it means you pull the trigger back until it meets its little wall, so that way you know exactly when it's going to break, and you can have it break exactly when you want it to, and fire the shot exactly when you want to, as opposed to doing the whole trigger pull as one. I was like, pfft. And so I went. That was one of the times where I was like, hey, this is something that would best be practiced in live fire, right? Because I'm pulling a reset trigger every time. And so I went and I put a target out there, and I was like, let's see about this. And man, I did that. And I tell you what, if you prep the trigger, it's much easier to make the gun go off exactly where you want it to. It's crazy.
Yeah. You just have to be, I've had a few of those times where I'm coming in on the target and it's like, oh, prep too much.
Yeah. Bang.
I better put 2 more on there to make sure I'm in the right spot.
But yeah, I remember that was a great learning moment because I didn't know what that was at all. And then I went out to the range and I think I took maybe 100 rounds and I said, let's see what this is, right? Let's see if this is actually a thing. Let's see what this feels like. And I was like, whoa. Yeah, I was like, wow, that's a huge difference. That's cool.
Look, you don't know what you don't know. So I'm going to ask you a question. I'm prefacing my question with that.
I don't know shit.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was saying. What do you think is the biggest thing you need to learn as a competitor? Or do you think you even know what that is?
As a competitor versus a shooter?
Well, and what I mean is I've eavesdropped on those super squads, and man, they talk like completely different people. You know what I mean? Like they're talking like 6 feet over my head. I know what they're saying, but I would have never thought to think it on my own because they've learned it over time. Like Nils was, I heard him talking to someone one time. He was on the super squad. I forget which nationals now it was. And because I shot 3 in a row. So I forget which one. It was either the second or third one. But anyway, they were at Talladega. And he just made the comment. Now I don't remember exactly how it went, but basically, you shoot enough Charlies, you've just shot a Mike. So immediately I was like, oh, I had never considered that concept, but that's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah.
Especially shooting, his point was shooting minor. You shoot enough Charlies, you're basically shooting, now you're shooting Mikes. You've shot so many Charlies.
Yeah, like, it doesn't take that many because a Mike is down 15 points. So it would only.
A Mike is 5. So, but you lose 2 points every Charlie.
Well, a Mike is you miss out on the 5 points that you could have scored. So that's 5 points of all the stage points available down, and then you earn a -10. You earn a penalty of the maximum scoring value of the target.
Are you talking about a no shoot?
No, I'm talking about a Mike. A Mike is -10. So is a no shoot.
I'm not sure where we're getting a -10 from a Mike.
You get
it's a score of 0.
You earn 0 and you get a penalty of -10 on top of that for a Mike.
There shouldn't be a penalty for a Mike.
In USPSA there is, yeah.
On a no shoot there is. You get the 0 for the Mike, and then you get a -10 for the no shoot.
You're gonna have to check it out, my guy. You're gonna have to check the rules. You've been shooting this whole time. You get a 10-point penalty for only having 1 hit on a target that requires 2 to fully score.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
So is there anybody, we've talked about Steve, obviously you've taken multiple classes there. We've talked Travis, that'd be another one to take. That'd be another good class to take. Is there anybody else that you look out there and you go, I wouldn't mind taking a class from him or her?
Yeah, I've caught some tidbits of stuff that Ben Stoger posts on Instagram, and a thing or two that I've heard him say have been kind of handy. Um, he does that thing where he puts the black paster in the middle of the target, and
Yes.
you aim for the spot, and then kind of, as everybody knows, right? If you aim for that specific spot in the middle of the alpha, you shoot more alphas than if you're just kind of shooting at the alpha.
Right.
But that was useful. That's all about, like, you learn to. I guess you're supposed to learn to put that dot there with your mind at the center of the alpha and shoot at it. Um, I never really got into doing that. That doesn't mean I don't think it's legit. I think it just takes a lot of time and practice. But to find the center, to put a spot on the center of the target, you do have to bring the target into focus with your eyes sooner. So in dry fire, if I'm going to find a dot in the center of the target, I have to find the target sooner, because my eyes are there already, but my gun's on the way. And if I'm going to have enough target focus, if I'm going to have enough visual information coming into my brain from that target, like to put a dot in the very center of it, like I need to really see that target. So just kind of the level of visual focus that brings in, putting a dot in the center of the target with your mind, that's pretty beneficial.
Now, I've been doing that for about 3 or 4 years, where I actually do it on my dry fire targets. I have the peel and stick ones,
Yeah,
that you
yeah, those are
can
good.
buy, and the 1/3 and the 1/6 and all that. But I have gone in and actually drawn a circle, a small circle, on every single one of my dry fire targets. So I know when I move my eyes over and look at the target, they automatically get drawn to that point. So when I'm at a match, that's where they go.
Hmm.
Have you considered anything like that in dry fire?
I have on a couple of my targets. Yeah, I've got like a dot in the middle that I'll aim for. Um, Another thing I've been messing around with is, because obviously, if you were going to shoot the very center of the alpha, it would take a lot more time than it would to just shoot anywhere in the alpha, right? Just like it would take even less time to shoot anywhere in the alpha or the Charlie, right? And so one thing that I've been working on is getting better at calling my shots, which is kind of it's one of the things that requires a little bit of live fire, to be able to see the sights leave the target and know where that shot went. And so I've been working on that a lot, and with that, I've been kind of messing around with just the alpha. So if I'm in a mode of dry fire where the goal is to train accuracy, I'll just get a sight picture that's in the alpha. And with a lot of target focus with your eyes, I've noticed there's a lot of surface area in the alpha. Um, at targets that are less than 20 yards away, that is, there's a lot of surface area in the alpha. Further than 20 yards, my front sight just covers up the whole alpha, and it's a little bit more difficult. But under 20 yards, there's a lot of surface area. So if you get enough vision focus and enough target focus, I've found that it's not impossible to be able to say, hey, that was a left alpha, but that left alpha is worth just as much as the center alpha. And I mean, it takes a lot of vision focus, but using the whole surface area of the alpha is something else that I've been trying to kind of mess around with seeing and processing with my eyes when I'm dry firing.
I feel like Ben is a good one because he shot production for so many years at a very high level. So that's all iron sights. I think Tim Herron is another good one because that's what he shoots is iron sights. Um, he did a lot of single stack. I like to call short stack, but no, I'm not calling Tim a short stack. I call single
Right,
stack,
right.
short stack. Um, but I feel like too, he's another good one that would be able to teach, iron sights at distant and close up, like what you need to be able to see and how to see it, how to acquire it rapidly.
Yeah,
Um, that'd be another good one.
yeah, absolutely.
And I assume that what is it? IPSC is standard. I think that's the limited
Yeah.
division. So I assume that's what you would try to get at the World Shoot.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I'm signed up to shoot at the IPSC Nationals this year, and that's what I would be shooting at the World Shoot.
What is your shooting schedule? We talked briefly earlier, again, before we went live. You mentioned you have a match this weekend, and then you have Area 8. What does your shooting schedule look like for the rest of the year?
It's decently busy for the rest of the year. This is my first year really. I mean, I shot last year was my first year really competing in USPSA.
Okay.
Maybe like late 2021 and 2022, but
so last year was your first full season.
Right. I think
Okay.
that in 2021 I shot some club matches, and I think the Kentucky. No, maybe I've shot Area 5 3 times. I think we shot Area 5 our first year. And then our second year shooting, mostly club matches, a couple level 2s, and we shot Area 5. And then at the end of last season, I was starting to get more and more into it, and I shot Area 2. And then this season, I signed up to shoot all the areas and like 1 or 2 level 2 matches. But for the rest of this year, I've got open nationals. I'll be shooting my limited gun in open. So I've got open nationals, iron sight nationals. I've got Battle for the North Coast this weekend, Area 8 the weekend after that, and then I think I'm shooting the Alabama sectional, and then Area 2 at the very end of the season. And then IPSC Nats is the weekend after that. That's the latest.
Area 2?
Yeah, that's all that I have on my schedule right now.
Oh, that's all, huh? That's a lot of that's a lot of travel and a lot of matches.
Yeah. I love the traveling part. I really do. I love it. It's so the first couple times I flew with guns, I was very stressed out. But now it's chill, it's relaxed, I don't have to worry about anything. Just hanging out on the airplane, hanging out at the airport, hanging out at the hotel, go shoot a match.
Now.
That's a good time. Go get food with some friends. What a great time. I love it.
So I guess your job is flexible enough that you can do all of this.
Yeah, I work at a gym, and so I can schedule within reason. If I need a Friday off to go shoot or a Friday, Monday off for, a long weekend, I can kind of move my schedule around that. I just don't schedule clients on that day, or there's some other trainers who work there as well, and I can kind of move some of my people onto their schedule and make it work. Very fortunate because my job is pretty fun. It's pretty low stress, and the flexibility has allowed me to do a lot. So very, very fortunate.
Okay. Now, do you expect your schedule next year to be the same thing? Are you going to do all area matches again?
I'm probably going to have to keep shooting every area match every year until I win all of them and nationals in the same year. Okay. That's kind of – because at this rate, I've won 5 out of 6. And,
right.
I mean, even if I lose – even if I was to not win 8 or 2, which I'm kind of planning on winning both, even if I was to lose both of those, it's like, hey, you won 5 out of 8.
Still pretty solid.
You know what the next rung on the ladder is?
6
out of 8.
Yep.
8 out of 8. It's always right there. The next thing's always right there. I'll probably... It depends. It depends on what I feel like I'm getting out of it, because I'm shooting open nationals solely because I would like to... I'm going to try and win nationals this year, and I've only ever shot 1 nationals ever in my life. So I feel like having shot a nationals level match over 3 days twice in my life would be a beneficial experience to that. So that's why I'm shooting that. But I mean, if I feel at some point like shooting the matches is not benefiting my ability to win them, then I might have a less ambitious shooting schedule in future years.
Yeah, and going back to that whole you don't know what you don't know. I mean, that national schedule, like the first time I shot it, after that I was like, I'm not shooting that schedule again. So the next year, I shot I shot PM, AM, PM because I'm not a fan of shooting right first thing in the morning at 8 o'clock. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you don't know that until you shoot it. But then after the second year, I was like, you know what? No, I would actually prefer the morning. So just having shot the two different schedules allowed me to figure out which one I liked better, why I like them better, what advantages they are for me personally. So I think that, like what you're doing, shooting open nationals with your limited gun will only benefit you and allow you to learn more about shooting the 3 days, how you're going to, working out your own personal schedule. There's a lot to it. There are a lot of details.
Yeah. That may be the first match that I ever specifically trained for. I was saying earlier how I'm not at a point where I train up for a match because I'm in full training mode all the time right now because I'm trying to get better because I'm new and I'm trying to not be new anymore. And that match though, I'm just guessing that because it's open in PCC, I'm guessing there's going to be some difficult targets. And so I'll probably incorporate into my training some extra far targets.
Yeah, I would think the same thing. I would think there'd be farther, smaller targets to make it a little more challenging.
I mean, I feel like there's definitely going to be mini poppers at 30 yards throughout the match. I feel like there has to be.
So I guess you'll be prepping your trigger.
Yeah, it's a good thing I learned that.
Right. Thank you, Jay Lease.
A lot.
Yeah, it is nice rather than having to do the whole motion.
Yeah.
So for sure. I've even heard Christian Seiler talking about that. So he's the only other person I know of that has won all 8 area championships and a national championship in the same year.
Yep. He's the only one. And so even if I do it, he'll still be the only one who's ever done it in open division.
And he'll still always be the first.
And he'll always be the first. Yeah.
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 So he's kind of paved that road, and now other people are like, hey, if he did it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That dude's a king.
Yeah. Yeah. He is super impressive. He's young. He's driven. He's focused. He's going to be a hard one to beat for a while. Well, Joey, that's what I've got for questions. Was there anything we touched on that you wanted to clarify or?
Well, nothing that really stands out, and I would stay to shoot the breeze more, but I've got to. My girlfriend gets off work here in just a little bit, and we've got to pack, and I got to hit the road because I shoot tomorrow morning at Battle for the North Coast, and that's a 5-hour drive. So I got to get some stuff packed up and ready to go for the weekend. But yeah, I really appreciate you having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. It's a great conversation, and good luck.
Thank you. And to anybody who to fun, you asked about my schedule, right? My shooting schedule, if my work is flexible enough to allow that. Well, my budget also needs to be flexible enough to allow that. And so I started processing brass on the side. So you mentioned Action Brass Co. there at the beginning. That's my side hustle. So if anybody needs cleaned, roll sized and cleaned, or fully processed, meaning deprimed, swaged, resized, roll sized, washed and polished brass, you can go to actionbrassco.com or check out our Instagram page, Action Brass Co. Get your brass there. We support the shooting sports big time. So 10% of all of our profits go not as sponsorships for matches, but as cash checks directly to clubs that host USPSA matches specifically for USPSA facilities. So That's our way of supporting. We got pretty competitive prices. We got good product, and you're supporting the shooting sports. So go buy your brass there.
I will put a link in the show notes so they can go there.
Oh, perfect. I appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, no problem.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks for having me on, man.
All right. Take care, Joey. Until next time.
Don't be a little bitch.
Yeah.